We're almost ready to go racing here at Zandvoort. Race 1 of the weekend in Clio Cup Series. And as ever with the French Pocket Rockets, there is an awful lot to look at, because this is a round not only of the European Championship, it is the final weekend in the Mid-European Championship, and that perhaps is the main focus. That could be won this weekend by Gabriele Torelli, should be won by Gabriele Torelli, as he is the championship leader, but also the overall Clio Cup Series title, the super title if you like, is heading the way of David Pouget, who also leads the French Championship, of which this is not a point scoring round, but just to reinforce the point about how rapid a driver David Pouget is. The Clio Cup Series is this all-embracing title. Within it you have the European, the Mid-European, the French and the Spanish and the Italian titles as well. It delivers fantastic racing, and this is going to be a 25-minute plus 1 lap race. Pole position to Gabriele Torelli. He's had 5 race wins this year. He leads the Mid-European Championship. He's second in the European, and he is third in Clio Cup Series. That is the man behind the GM Sport team. It is Guillaume Maillot, and he lines up second on the grid. It's a 1x1 stagger grid for Clio Cup Series, and Guillaume Maillot is another very rapid driver indeed, so certainly a man to watch over the course of this race. But that is a man who races, runs teams not only in Clios but also in the GT4 European Series and French GT4. David Pouget, he came into Renault racing with a really good CV, having won the Peugeot 1-make titles in France for many, many seasons, and he has been a regular race winner in Clios, whether it's been in Europe or in the French Championship specifically, but perennial bridesmaid to Nicolas Milon. This year it looks like that could change, and fourth on the grid is Jerzy Spinkovic. He's also been a race winner this season. Spinkovic having had a win in the Spanish rounds at Valencia and another one at Paul Ricard just a couple of weeks ago. So he will line up fourth on the grid. Fifth is Jacopo Ximenez. And Ximenez is another of the young guns of Renault Clio Racing, and another quick driver. He came from karting into Clios, 2 seasons ago now. This is third full season of Renault Racing, and Jacopo Ximenez in the car run by the Essa Corsa team. And then next on the grid is Nicolas Milon, who has won probably more Renault Clio titles now than anybody else, whether it's the European, the French, the Spanish, you name it. He has been a hugely successful racer. This year, oddly, is perhaps not his strongest of seasons. He's only had 1 outright victory. He's second, though, through banking the points in Clio Cup Series. And this is the man that won the European Championship last year. You can see how successful he's been with all the trophy stickers there. Anthony Girardot, he's a Milan customer. And Anthony Girardot, 3 times a winner this year, second in the Mid-European, third in the European Championship, and last year to win the European Series, got rid of the sort of wild man image that he'd had for the previous couple of seasons. Thomas Piccard there is currently third within the Mid-European Championship in the Carpec Racing entry, and he will start 8th on the grid. 9th on the grid is Alejandro Schimpf, one of the 2 Schimpf brothers, and he is one of the leading lights within the Spanish Championship, but also scores in the full European Series in number 199. And then the top 10 on the grid will be completed by the Danish driver Mathias Dahl, who's come into 1-make Renault Racing, having taken part in the Super Cup in Denmark, which in his case has been in Renault Clios, came out of karting prior to that. So the cars are all on the grid. It'll be 1 formation lap to get some warmth into the Michelin tyres, David Anderson trackside, and a busy grid it is of, 27 cars. There, a little bit further back on the grid, Julien Baziré, who used to rally Clios before coming to race them. Very successful in the Clio France Trophy for Tarmac Rally Renault Clios, and then switching his attention to racing these cars as well. Next year, the plan is to perhaps have slightly fewer events to look after costs for the drivers. There'll be a facelifted car available next year to come into the championship, but even now, new drivers come in. This is one of them, Knut Erik Knudsen, who is the Norwegian driver who's had some good results, not a title, but race wins within the Norwegian Citroën DS3 1-make championship. And with 1-make experience, he'll be a driver to look for. Andreas Stucki, the Swiss driver who runs his own team, and to make the point that you have not only the overall battles in each of the regional championships, but also there is the racers for the gentlemen drivers and the challengers for the under-25s. Perhaps the best livery of all goes on Martin Kuhl's car. If you're a fan of Super Mario, then that's the car for you. It's certainly the best paint job. Whether it will look that is immaculate by the end of the weekend, time will tell, but Martin Kuhl is certainly good to go and looking pretty confident in the build-up here on home soil. There are other Dutch drivers on the grid, which include Stefan Polderman and also René Steenmits. There is Damiano Puccetti, who came into Clio's from karting. He drives for the Rangoni Corsa team. Luca Rangoni, very successful champion in the days of the European Clio V6 championship before racing Alfa Romeos in touring cars, amongst other things. BMW racer most recently, Luca Rangoni, but his team now coming into the European Championship. The 1 minute board shown, so the engines now fire. And as I say, there will be one formation lap just to clear the mechanic from Jacopo Cimenez's car. Door now closed, and the mechanics make their way off the grid. The qualifying session this morning was stopped because, twice in fact, but the first stoppage was Quinto Stefana, who went off the road and lost his best lap time for being the cause of a red flag. Also, René Steenmits, the driver who leads the racers category within the European Championship, he didn't get a lap time in, the car stopped. And Michel Fay, number 33, will be 2 places back on the grid. He was given a 2-place grid drop for blocking. And Adrian Schimpf, who leads the Spanish Championship, he will start 17th on the grid. He was given a 4-place grid drop for causing a collision within the qualifying session. One thing that the Clio race director and stewards have been hugely keen on ever since the championship started is improved driving standards. Some one-way championships almost become a bit of a joke because of the amount of contact. It has never been the case in Clio Cup Series. It's been good, hard racing, one-mate racing as it should be, but without the silliness that some championships have had. So bad driving instantly clamped down on, and that means that people are respectful of one another and it delivers good action. Gabriele Torralli starts on pole position with Guillaume Mayo for company at the front. David Pouget starting 3rd, and Jerzy Spinkovic then is 4th. 5th on the grid, Jacopo Cimenez, and lining up 6th, Nicolas Milon, with all his experience, a man to watch ahead of the reigning European champion Anthony Gerardo and Thomas Picar in the orange Carpec entry next, ahead of Adrian Schimpf, and the top 10 rounded out by Matthias Dahl. Julien Bazire comes next, and on his debut, an impressive 12th, Knut-Erik Knudsen. Next, Andreas Stucki, and 14th, Martin Kuhl. 15th on the grid is going to be Damiano Puccetti, and then local driver Stefan Polderman ahead of the grid-dropped Adrian Schimpf. And Leonor Vigue comes next ahead of Quinto Stefana and Benjamin Kovac. Then Eduardo Miranda Cordoba and Henrik Seibel ahead of Gabriel Alonso, Udo Brunner starting on the 13th row, and then Michel Fay will be behind him after a 2-place grid drop for blocking. And then the grid is going to be completed by René Steenmits, who didn't get a lap time in, so he's another driver to watch to see what progress can be made. So much of drivers' success in Clio Cup Series has been about keeping out of trouble, benefiting from a tow, and being in the right place at the right time to strike. Now, Zandvoort, and the lap record holder around here is Anthony Gerardo, doesn't have too many places where you can tow, not like, for example, Paul Ricard or Monza or Spa, where they have raced this year. So it's a different type of circuit in that respect. We'll see how the drivers attack. If you're able to make a break early on and get away, it's to your advantage, but it's quite rare. And I suspect that we're going to end up with the usual sort of 6 or 7 strong battle pack for the race lead. There is Knut-Erik Knudsen turning his way out of turn 12. Coming now to the approach to the Ari Luijendijk bocht, one of these 2 reprofiled banked corners. And to the grid there, number 4, which is Julien Bazire, another driver that runs his own team, the Bazire Sport squad. There you can see the very steep Ari Luijendijk curve. It's been a really blustery weekend thus far. We've had a bit of rain today, a lot more rain yesterday, so the teams have had to cope with a wet road, a dry road, really gusty conditions. So just when you think you've got the setup of the car right, suddenly the wind catches you and it feels completely different. But that perhaps matters less in a hot hatch than it does in a single-seater with aero around here. But even so, the 1400cc turbocharged cars don't want too much of a headwind to have to battle against. Into position comes Gabriele Torelli then. Whether he wins the title today, whether it goes down to the wire tomorrow, we will see. You drop one score within the Mid-European Championship, and it must be a dropped score from the previous event. You've got to count both results this weekend. So even if you get 2 zeros, you've got to count those. You can't drop those, but you could drop a 0 from the previous events, if that is making sense. And therefore, on drop scores, Torelli has 426 points to the 390 of Anthony Gerardo, and then it's Thomas Piccart third within the Mid-European Championship. So Torelli and Gerardo are the two to watch for that contest, with the European still having races at Imola and Barcelona to go. Same true for Clio Cup Series, although it does look as though by the end of the weekend, David Pouget in the white car, their third on the grid, will be uncatchable. So the final car into position now is René Steenmetz at the very back of the grid. The marshal with the flag will wave that to indicate that everybody is in position, and then race 1 for Clio Cup Series can get underway. The 5 red lights will go on. The lights will go out any second, and it is blast off. Good getaway by Torelli. Very good getaway, though, by Guillaume Maillot in contrast, and he's up the inside line. David Pouget tries to find a gap on the outside as the cars go down towards Tarzan, and it's Maillot on the inside line in the largely white and orange car that tries to grab the lead, but Torelli stands his ground on the outside line and just comes out ahead, and the mayhem has begun early because Knut-Erik Knudsen is off the road in his first Clio race, and he's taken some with him, and I reckon that's going to be a safety car, sadly, because there are 2 in the gravel that don't look like they're coming out, as Pouget has gone second at the expense of Maillot. Milon runs 4th, Gerardo is 5th, Thomas Piccart is 6th, but all the mayhem began going into the Tarzan hairpin. The race leaders then battle their way up towards Schkefelach for the first time, and up front it is Gabriele Torelli trying to win a championship in the best possible manner by winning the race as well, rather than just banking points. There you can see one of the 2 cars stranded in the gravel, Andreas Stucki that is. And others are on their toes further back to the inside line. Adrian Schimpf trying to make progress then. So it is Knut-Erik Knudsen, Andreas Stucki that we have lost. Guillaume Maillot then, alongside Nicolas Milon for 3rd place. Anthony Gerardo in the blue and orange car right with them as well, but this is for 3rd. And while they're squabbling, Torelli and Torelli and Pouget are getting away up the road. You can see the gap that has already opened up between 2nd and 3rd. Safety car deployed. Safety car called, and just through and then off the road bounces there Nicolas Milon. So he went through and then fell off the racetrack, but he has hung on to his 3rd place. Straight away, Torelli backs off the pace, slows the field down, but also, of course, tries to maintain warmth in the tyres, pressures in the tyres as well. So the drivers now making their way up towards the Arie-Luyendyk box. All of this counts within the 25 minutes. Then you have that regulation lap put on at the end. Adrian Schimpf, I think I mentioned, got a penalty earlier on because he got involved with Michel Fay. That was the collision caused. The safety car bringing them through the pit lane because of the incident down at Tarzan hairpin that needs to be worked on. So the swiftest way of getting that sorted and keeping the race going is to bypass it by going through the pit lane. So very sensibly called by Rui Marquez, the race director. So that's the reason that they're all coming down the pit lane. It's not that the race is over, it's not that people have got a problem. It is that this is the way to keep the race going because of the recovery operation down at turn 1, which could effectively block the circuit or cause a traffic jam. So this way you can bypass that and just take them through the pit lane. So it's a slightly shorter lap, but it will keep the race alive. Gabriele Torelli leading David Pouget and then Nicolas Milon. Guillaume Maillot in 4th place, Anthony Gerardo in 5th. Jesse Spinkovic was 6th, he got ahead of Thomas Piccart. Then it is Alejandro Schimpf from Jacopo Jimenez and Matthias Dahl in 10th place. So everybody coming down the pit road. And there is Knut-Erik Knudsen's car being pulled out of the gravel. So that's the end of his first Clio race. It was a very short one. And the other driver that was involved with Andreas Stucki. So replay of the start. Good effort by David Pouget to try to find the gap. He It's a good send up the inside by Guillaume Mayo. Looked like he might have got the lead. In the end, he was fourth by the end of the lap. And there they are again in replay. So you see the way that Torelli moves across on Guillaume Mayo, who keeps on coming. Got his nose in front, so he so briefly led, but Torelli really brave on the outside line. And then look right, because in a moment, it's all going to kick off. There it is. Knudsen, I think, just braked too late because he was going straight on. Stuckey was on the outside and got taken with him. In the background, you see the two cars going into the gravel, but Gabriele Torelli, by the time they got to turn 2, was ahead. Pouget by turn 3 up into second place, and Guillaume Mayo then just fell further and further down as the lap progressed. All sorts of dramas going on as people took different lines. Alejandro Schimp's turquoise and grey car there being caught out and losing place to Jacopo Jimenez. Yellow flag wave there, and that was Nicolas Milan diving through and off the road with a waved yellow flag being shown, which is interesting. So that might cop a finger wag at the very, very least. So Andreas Stuckey's car is almost down on the gravel. So did his best to get out, but couldn't quite get as far as the escape road at the top of that gravel bed, and hence was ensnared. So it's only going to be one more lap. Oh, there's quite a bit of damage, isn't there, where he was given a whack by Knudsen. It may well have done the suspension, and that's also adding to the delay here, and that's well beat. I don't think the marshals are going to be able to push that very easily. So this could be quite a long safety car run now, sadly, with Andreas Stuckey's car clearly not being swift to move. So I think the safety car again will come down the pit lane. It does. Big frustration for the drivers. The only one perhaps enjoying it like this is Torelli, who doesn't have to worry too much about being attacked, and the red flag is being shown. So the race is being stopped. It's taking longer than expected to move Andreas Stuckey's car, so the race suspended. Andreas Stuckey himself is okay, if a little nonplussed by the situation. So the cars will halt in the pit lane, and my suspicion would be that they'll stay in the pit lane, and then the race will resume from there with 19 minutes and 28 seconds on the clock. So they actually get some racing time in. Most likely a safety car restart from the pits, and then let them go at the end of the lap. But as it stands, it's clearly, as you can see, taking a long time to get Stuckey's car out of the way, and if that takes another 10 minutes, there's not very much racing left at all. So sensibly, in this respect, the race is interrupted so the drivers don't lose out on race time. That gravel trap doing its job, stopping an errant car, but the knock-on effect of that is it then takes a long time to clear. So safety car to a red flag, and presumably it will be a safety car restart to get the duration of the race underway. So 2 laps done, and the safety car holding them at the end of the pit lane. You can see the cars effectively under parc fermé conditions. The team's not able to go to the cars. So not a stoppage as such, but a race suspension. So the safety car awaits instruction to go again. There is Gabriele Torelli's car at the head of the queue. The race leader, Gabriele Torelli, who came from the Italian Mini series into Renault Clios. That's the man that's doing the chasing. David Pouget, multiple one-make championship winner, and Nicolas Milan saying he must, or being told he must give back position to car 99. So what we've just seen in the replay, overtaking under yellow flags, Milan being told that, again, when the cars go back out, he must give the position to that man who he'd overtaken, Guillaume Mayo. There is number 21. That's Stefan Polderman's car. He's one of the drivers in the racers class, which is for the gentleman driver, if you like, the older drivers. The Belgian touring car champion many, many years ago, Stefan Polderman. The McDonald's liveried car. And Guillaume Mayo, I think, yes, the change of place is going to happen in the pit lane. So the officials switching Milan and Mayo. So Guillaume Mayo is being given his 3rd place back again. It's not often you will see overtaking in the pit lane. It's not often you will see overtaking during a red flag period, but here's an example of it. But it's all on instruction from the marshals and the championship officials. So Nicolas Milon's car put back into the queue where it should be. All good. And Nicolas Milon, I would have thought, would be easily able to make up that place once more once we get back underway. This was the move, yellow flag waving, which means no overtaking. And through came Milon, no question. And then to fall off the road as well under a yellow flag. Doesn't go down well with the officials, so they've reversed that rather than take any more draconian penalty, like excluding him for overtaking under yellows. He's just given back the place and survives in the race. Nicolas Milon, who's been the dominant driver in recent Clio seasons, but runs his whole fleet of cars. Replay of the start once more. Torelli making that good getaway, but not as good as Mayo. But Guillaume Mayo just seemed to lose out on the exit of turn 1 through 2 and 3. That's when he got done by the packs. But this was really good stuff by Torelli all the way around the outside, hanging on to the advantage. And then you hear the bang of the task wheel as Knudsen arrives on the scene and takes Andreas Stuckey with him, who slithered out wide, but not quite wide enough to get onto that runoff tarmac. So he's stuck at the top of the gravel. Oh dear. That's not meant to be like that. Whose car is that? Is that in the pits? Is that parked by the side of the circuit? It's in the pit lane, I fear. That is Stefano Quinta's car, which had an off this morning. It was that corner that was damaged this morning as well in the incident that he had, so maybe it's a legacy of that. But Stefano Quinto is... Sorry, Quinto Stefano is in 14th place yet at the moment. But he's okay, looks pretty confident about getting back underway. 125, Jerzy Spinkovics, 6th place at the moment in the unique racing car. And that will be another one to watch, I think, once we get back underway. We are 7 minutes away from the race resuming, we are told. Gabriele Torelli, the race leader. The margins are all rather irrelevant because, of course, everybody will bunch up behind and it will be a safety car restart. There is Andreas Stuckey, who's not had very much to do, sadly, but he's okay. Hopefully that car can be made good for tomorrow. They qualify for tomorrow's race tomorrow morning, so it's not affected, the grid for tomorrow, by the results of today, but it is taking quite some time, and the reason is they've had to do a lift, so you've had to get another snatch vehicle, and yes, it was broken suspension in that incident, so that's another reason why it just couldn't be pulled. So that's why there's quite a lot of damage done to Stuckey's car. So Thomas Picard sitting in 7th place, and he's the man 3rd in the Mid-European Championship at the moment, in the standings. Number 42 is under investigation, we understand, Mariano Alonso, for an alleged safety car incident. So there is the Carpet Racing entry. That is Damiano Puccetti. And Puccetti is in 15th place, just wanting to get going again. Getting all musical inside the car. And as Andreas Stuckey's very battle-scarred car now, it's sort of in isolation. You look at it like that, and the suspension damage making it look even worse, really, with it being slightly lower than it should be. That means the road is almost clear, and so we're not that far away from the cars being able to be released. 199 is Alejandro Schimpf, who was a bit slow away to begin with, but knows what he's doing in Renault, so he could be a man to watch on the resumption of the race as well. So Torelli, Pouget and Milon from Mayo, Gerardo and Spinkovics is the top 6 at the moment. Alejandro Schimpf, his brother Adrian, is further back in the queue, but made good progress, in fact, early on. Adrian Schimpf got himself up into 11th place, having started 17th, so he was certainly hustling on. Another of the Dutch drivers that we have, René Steenmetz. Now, where was he? Because Steenmetz was at the very back of the grid, 27th, and he got himself into 16th, so René was really keen away from the start. And he's going to get on with it as well. So René Steenmetz making good progress. So 27 we started with, 25 still going, with the cars of Knut-Erik Knutsen and Andreas Stucki then out of harm's way now. So Gabriele Torelli from David Pouget, the order. Mariano Alonso's car is in 17th place. Another of the drivers that scores points in the Spanish Championship, as well as the European. Drivers can nominate for 2 regional championships, so the European and one other, if they so desire, or they can just do one. It's entirely up to them. But you can do other races and not score points, for example. So if you are registered for the French Championship, you can come and do another round, but you won't score points in that other regional series if you've not registered for it. But you might want the track time as a one-off or a bit of fun, or you find a bit of extra budget. There is another newcomer this year, Matthias Dahl, and he is in 10th place, the Danish driver. And further back in number 51, Henrik Seibel, another Carter turned Renault racer, the German driver driving for Thomas Picar's Carpex squad, which compared to Martin Kuhl's livery behind, it looks remarkably understated. There you've got the pure orange livery, whereas behind it's a very colourful car that runs in the hands of Martin Kuhl in 19th. And he's gone backwards, hasn't he? Because Kuhl, yes, was 14th on the grid, so he got roughed up a little bit early on and fell back in the queue. So 2 more minutes looking at the clock when the cars will be back underway. Talk about the liveries. There is Martin Kuhl's car, all the Super Mario characters adorning it. It's been the centre of much attention over the course of the weekend thus far. You can understand why. And it still looks pretty immaculate, which is good news. So 19 minutes and 28 seconds of the timed part of the race remain. Then there would be that regulation lap at the end. The next lap surely is going to be behind the safety car for the safety car restart. So the clock should start to tick once the cars leave the pit lane. Hopefully just 1 lap to get them to go, and then the remainder of the time plus the regulation lap at the end. Number 16 there, Leonor Viguier, who's been another regular in the championship for a number of years, both French and also in the Spanish series. A lot of miles covered by drivers in Clio Cup series. 1 minute board shown, engines fired back up again. And the safety car shortly will lead them out of the pit lane and the race will resume. Benjamin Covas sits ready to rejoin, the former French GT racer. A Porsche Cayman that he raced in the French GT4, French GT Championship before switching tack, coming into one-mate racing. So Torelli good to go. You can see how blustery it is with the flags are fluttering. And the safety car crew are ready to venture out onto the circuit. The 15-second board is now shown. There towards the rear of the pack is Eduardo Miranda, the Mexican driver who lives in the UAE, former Carter. And the green flag is shown and the clock is ticking, so the race is back underway. So safety car restart after the race suspension. And we carry on where we left off, effectively. So out they all pour. I was going to say no change in the order, but of course there has been in the pit lane. This slight rarity of a place change on instruction from the officials, switching Mayo and Milon around. So that gives Guillaume Mayo his 3rd place once more. So ignore the timing tower for the moment. That'll update at the next sector point. But we've seen the change happen in the pit lane because Milon took the place under a yellow flag initially. So we're behind the safety car right now. Being well, it will peel off at the end of this lap. And we will be back up and running then for the continuation of the race. So the drivers making their way now through Scheeflach up at the top of the lap. Very, very fast corner. And just as you've got your breath back from it, it's a short, almost straight. And then another hard brake zone for another right-hander out of turn 8. The Masters Bocht. For many, many years, it was the Formula 3 Masters competition here, which was Zandvoort's main race. And at its height, when there was big sponsorship available and lots of different regional Formula 3 championships, it was an absolutely must-do event. But nothing lasts forever. As Formula 3 has changed, so that event has dropped away. But the corner name echoes to those days. This is turn 10 into 11. The safety car brings the field around. Drivers getting a bit of warmth back into the tyres. We will await to see whether the lights are extinguished soon to get the race back underway this time, or whether there's going to be one more lap. But the drivers eager to get on with it. The only slight worry in this is that safety cars breed safety cars. So it might be that now they're all bunched up and the lights are out, so we are going to go racing. What we don't want is for them to trip over themselves all over again. But the safety car quickening its pace. It will peel in this time. And that's the race leader, Gabriele Torelli, edging towards the Clio Cup Mid-Europe Championship title. It's that to focus on perhaps more post-race, really, because whether it can be done in this race or in tomorrow's, the abacus will determine at the end of the race, and particularly there with David Pouget right on the tail of Torelli. There's the race in isolation to enjoy perhaps even more. The yellow flags are about to be withdrawn. Green flags about to be shown. 16.5 minutes and counting of the race still to go. And up towards the timing line they come. Green flag on the start line. It's up to Torelli to accelerate away, but he's leaving it late as they come up towards the line. And there's a whole queue of cars behind him as Torelli now gets on with the programme and accelerates away, but he certainly wasn't going early, that's for sure. Pouget and Mayo behind him, Nicolas Milon in the green-nosed car, 4th, Anthony Girardot 5th, but under attack from the orange car of Thomas Picard on the outside line as they round turn 1, the Tarzan hairpin. So far, so good. Everybody through safely, but Torelli is trying to get away. Look up front. Pouget running in 2nd place, the French driver. Anthony Girardot there coming under attack from Thomas Picard as up wide goes Milon, out now of the Hugenholtz Bocht. René Steenmetz in 55 goes low, which doesn't always necessarily work out for you. Race back underway, and there Martin Kuhl just getting himself ahead of Henrik Seibel in the orange car as they head up towards turn 7. Another one moving forward there is Adrian Schimpf, getting up past Matthias Dahl, so that gives Schimpf 10th place now as they come up towards the Masters Bocht once more. Also going nicely is Alejandro Schimpf. He too is trying to make progress, and Girardot is all over the back of Patron, of Nicolas Milon, the man that runs the car for him. So actually Girardot in the blue car. Quite often the Milon team does work together, but we've also had situations where customers have been a little bit aggrieved to be beaten by the boss. And one notable occasion was Hockenheim last year when Girardot lost out to Milon. Right now, though, Nicolas Milon can't do very much in the Mid-European Championship, so arguably should be helping Girardot for that. But if Torelli is out front, then there's not much he can do anyway, because Gabriele Torelli is going to take some stopping. The field pouring its way then into turn 13. This will be the end of lap 4. The Michelin rubber squealing in protest as they accelerate out of the line box up towards the line. Top 2 breaking away, and you see David Pouget trying to go with Torelli, then staying in the wheel tracks to get a tow all the way down towards the Tarzan hairpin. 1 or 2 do go side by side midway down the pit straight, but it's really the last of the late breakers that matters. And up the inside for 3rd has gone Milon against Mayo, and he's gone by. So change has happened for 3rd. There it is. Nicolas Milon goes through. So Guillaume Mayo drops back into 4th. 5th is Anthony Girardot, and it's all happening for 6th. Jesse Spinkovic just ahead of Alejandro Schimpf in 199, who goes low on the inside there. Gets his nose in front, but Spinkovic tries to fight back, can't do it. And now he's got Thomas Picard in the orange car crawling all over the back of him as well. the field, accelerating then now through the Rob Slotemacher Bocht and on towards Skyflach, into which they will turn in a moment. And Nicolas Milon then now up into third place, going after the race leaders. Gabriele Torelli, perhaps not surprising given that he's about the only man in clear air, is the quickest man on the circuit. More battles rage on behind as Alejandro Schimp gets up on the inside line there of Thomas Piccart. Can't find a way past him, but he's keeping going, and he does go through on the inside there, heading into turn number 9 into 10. So good move, putting Schimp one place up the order. Now, Gerardo in the blue and orange car, crawling all over the back of Guillaume Maillot. Surprising this, Maillot was good in qualifying to be second, but he's just not got the race pace. Gerardo then lines up for a move on the inside to the Hans Ernst Bocht, which is turn 11, and he's going to go through. There's very little that Guillaume Maillot can do there by way of defence. So the reigning European champion, Anthony Gerardo, goes by, and all the time getting closer is Alejandro Schimp, who's making good progress. He was 8th at the start of this lap, and he might well be ahead of Maillot by the time they cross the stripe. One or two more in the background, I think, have had dramas, but Gabriele Torelli it is then who leads the way. There is Lionel Vinguet, number 16, in 20th position as the two leaders go by. And look, Pouget is getting a tow. He is closer to Torelli as they go over the line. 4 tenths becomes 2 tenths, breaks late, almost pushing Torelli into the corner. But David Pouget has got so much experience of one-mate racing, whether it's in these cars, whether it's in other manufacturers. He knows exactly what to do and when to do it to come out on top. More mayhem has broken out down at Tarzan, and René Steenmetz is on the receiving end of it. So having gone up the order to 14th from 27th, he's fallen back in the queue. Top two getting away, but they need to be careful here. This is the battle for first place, but while they're holding each other up, so Nicolas Milon in third could get up with them. So Pouget trying to perhaps hustle Torelli into a quicker pace rather than have Torelli defend. But Milon, who can just attack, he's got no one to battle against, he can bring down that gap. Gerardo 4th ahead of Maillot, and Schimp not yet, in fact, having got ahead of Guillaume Maillot in number 99, a French driver who runs his own team as well as races the cars, just like many others have their own team to help fund their racing. Thomas Piccart still trying to fight back, but he is on the wrong end of all of this. Piccart is going down the order. Jacopo Ximenez getting ahead of him, although Piccart fights back on the inside in the orange car. Jacopo Ximenez in the red and black livery gets forced out wide and has to slot in behind as they come out of turn 10. Race leaders nose to tail, and Gabriele Torelli getting a bit more acrobatic up the curve there as well as they come out of the corner now, absolutely tied together. Nose to tail once more, down through the right-hander of turn 13 in replay. Guillaume Maillot going wide, and Anthony Gerardo launching himself up the curb. Maybe he didn't need to do quite that level of excitement in the lap, because he'd certainly been given enough room by Maillot, but it's a great view that on that super slow-mo camera, and you see exactly what load goes through the car. As now for the race lead, Pouget mounts an attack on the outside line, heading down towards the Tarzan hairpin, but to no avail because Torelli hangs onto the place with that tighter inside line. The gap second to third, Pouget to Milon, is 2.2 seconds now. So Nicolas Milon the best of the rest, with Gerardo tucked up behind him. A little bit of tire smoke from Torelli as he locks up into the Hugenholz Bocht, and out the other side of it he still leads the way. Pouget behind him, and a quick check on the mirror might get David Pouget a little hot under the collar, because he will know that Nicolas Milon is not that far behind. Meantime at the Hugenholz Bocht, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a fight. René Steenmetz on the inside. Also in the midst of all of that, Quinto Stefano in the other red, silver and green liveried car. Stefano, who had damage this morning, but racing well. And Thomas Piccart has just done the absolute best first sector of anybody, even though he's way down the order. Stefano goes through, Quinto Stefano then in the midst of all of this battle, at the front of which is Henrik Seibel. He's got Martin Kuhl behind him. They both jumped ahead of Quinto Stefano, so this now is for 15th place. And Kuhl makes a good run up the inside and goes by. Henrik Seibel gives him racing room, so Martin Kuhl comes diving through, picks up the place. And in the background, more squabbling as number 42 there, Mariano Alonso, goes through. So Quinto Stefano is the one that's really falling back now, dropping, what, 4 places over the course of this lap. It's still on for the race lead though. Look, David Pouget then with just under 9 minutes of the timed part, plus a lap to go, right on the back of Gabriele Torelli. Now they hit the banking, the cars tilt. and accelerate onto the pit straight once more. Side by side again for the race lead. Dive down towards Tarzan, but Pouget on the outside needs to get the undercut. And this time he might be able to do it. He does, but there's contact. He can't go through there, and now the danger is the bodywork's folded against the tyre for him. David Pouget tried to get that switch back. Torelli, I think, may well have just lifted a touch mid-corner to try to prevent it, and the net result was that they have clashed. How much damage has that done to either car? Time will tell us. Pouget, for the moment, looks like he's the one that's come off worse because he's dropped back a couple of lengths. Here's the replay of it. So David Pouget on the outside, realised he wasn't going to get through, backs off a little earlier, tries to get the undercut, and as he does so, there's the contact between the pair. Just slightly misjudged it, perhaps, and they come out in the same order that they went into the corner. Torelli ahead of Pouget, and David has not given up yet, but the front left corner does now look rather dog-eared, doesn't it? Flappy bodywork. Nicolas Milon there third, Gerardo fourth, fifth is now Alejandro Schimpf ahead of Jerzy Spinkovic, and Guillaume Mayo is dropping like a stone, second on the grid to seventh, and he might be lower than that by the end. It's as though the car's got a lack of power, pure and simple, and he just can't now do anything about the pace of those around him. Picard is crawling all over him, and then Jacopo Jimenez there looking the red and black car. He is next in the queue, so Guillaume Mayo really struggling here to maintain any sort of representative pace that would indicate how quick he normally is. Down to turn 11, the Hans-Ernst Bocht, they come. 7 minutes are on the clock now. That's Thomas Picard, who needs really to be ahead of Gerardo and Torelli to keep alive any hope within the Mid-Europe Championship, but it's looking unlikely, and it's looking very promising as far as Torelli is concerned. He really needs an extra 14 points, and he leads, and Gerardo is fourth in the race, but second within Mid-Europe. That would be a difference of 8, so I don't think, subject to confirmation, that Torelli can win it today. With Gerardo chasing after him, it will go down to tomorrow's race, provisionally. Leaders went through, and a second and a half is now the gap between Torelli and Pouget, so that gap really has opened up, potentially a legacy of that contact. If it's damaged Pouget's car, he's really going to struggle now. Thomas Picard versus Guillaume Mayo. Mayo ahead. Picard in the orange livery to the inside line, and he should be able to get the job done at turn 3 on a tighter line, but the banking actually plays in favour of Mayo, who comes out, stays ahead therefore. So the lead gap, 1.5 seconds, 6 minutes to go. Picard now under attack, and he's under attack, look, from Jacopo Jimenez. And now look, David Pouget not only has a problem, but he's under attack. Milon through on the inside, and I think Pouget's tweaked the geometry of the car in that clash because he's lost all pace. Milon through, Gerardo through, and this is bad news for Pouget as far as the overall Clio Cup title is concerned. Directly he's heading for the pit lane, indicator is on, he's pulled to one side, and David Pouget's race is at an end. He's broken something in that contact, and look, David Pouget limps on. But what could have been the race lead ends up in retirement, and now Gerardo tries to make his move against Nicolas Milon for second place, and he's gone through. I think Milon possibly let him go there now, so he's released him in pursuit of Torelli. Alejandro Schimpf is next in the queue, fourth, but look, Gerardo with good speed getting away. Is it too late? 5 minutes and a lap to go to get after Gabriele Torelli. We'll see. So player manager Nicolas Milon lets one of his customers go and then plays rear gunner, fending off the pack behind. So it was 2.9 seconds first to fourth, Torelli to Gerardo. Now it is first to second, Torelli to Gerardo, and that margin is 3.4, and that's too tall an order surely as they dive down towards turn 1 with Alejandro Schimpf on the outside getting past Milon and having a go at Gerardo, and Adrian Schimpf is at the back of that queue as well now. So second is Gerardo, their third is Milon, Alejandro Schimpf fourth, fifth Jerzy Spinkovic, sixth Adrian Schimpf, but then there's more task wheel. Spinkovic ducks down low out of turn 3, can't do anything there about Alejandro Schimpf. And Adrian Schimpf has done a really good job here, bearing in mind that he started 17th on the grid and he's in 6th place, and it could be better than that yet because he's all over the back of Jerzy Spinkovic, this year's Middle East Clio Championship winner. That runs in the winter months in the UAE. Started this winter, and although it didn't have a massive grid, it was Jerzy Spinkovic who came out on top, so it's another title for his CV. bouncing it over the curve as he comes through the Masters Bocht. And Adrian Schimpf, now the Spanish championship leader, makes a lunge up the inside, goes through, goes wide, and goes back one place as well. So one up and one back. In fact, made that 2 places lost. Picard goes ahead of him as well. Guillaume Mayo is still in that battle pack and trying to retaliate, and then he's got Jacopo Jimenez behind him. So good racing, and Spinkovics alongside Thomas Picard now as they make that run down towards turn 11 once more. In sector 1, Torelli quicker than Gerardo. In sector 2, Gerardo quicker than Torelli. But even if the gap does come down in sectors 3.4, let's call it 3.5 seconds, is a really big gap to try to do anything about. So it's unlikely that Gerardo will get up with Torelli. But he needs to tomorrow. He needs to be ahead of him on the grid as well to try to keep the championship hopes alive. Pouget did pit, by the way, and he's still in the pits. Race run. Leaders come by. And there's the fight between Spinkovics, Adrian Schimpf and Thomas Picard as they come over the line. There, for 3rd place, Milan on the inside of Alejandro Schimpf. Anthony Gerardo in 2nd spot, just ahead of them. Adrian Schimpf has got ahead of both Picard and Spinkovics now. So the Schimpfs are, 4th and 5th now. Alejandro ahead of brother Adrian. And then Nicolas Milan rounds the Hugenholtz box, still pushing on. 2 minutes plus a lap to go. Yes, Spinkovics on his toes, coming out of the Hugenholtz corner. Up through the Slotermacher box, named after Rob Slotermacher, great Dutch touring car driver who for many, many years was synonymous with the skid pan and driver training course here. And it was as a mechanic for Slotermacher that one Jan Lammers first came to prominence, went of course to Formula 1 and made a great career winning at Le Mans, racing in touring cars and you name it, and he's here this weekend as well. Ambassador for the circuit these days. And Spinkovics makes his dive to the inside and goes through. So that puts him now up into 5th place once again at the expense of Adrian Schimpf, who retaliates on the inside, and Thomas Picard in the orange car is on the outside line, and Adrian Schimpf goes back ahead. Picard switches sides and he comes out level with the Spanish championship leader as well. The only driver that's got anything easy in this race is Gabriele Torelli, who has cleared off into the distance now that there's nobody capable of running with him. Meantime, Adrian Schimpf, then Spinkovics, then Picard jostle their way down through the Hans-Ernst Bocht. Jacopo Jimenez is next, and then Guillaume Mayo's clearly hobbled car still going, albeit rather badly delayed. He's going to salvage points, but there's just nothing like the same amount of pace that it had in qualifying. Big lock-up from others coming through the approach to Scheiflach, coming through that right-hander, and eventually the gravel opens its arms and receives 85 of Benjamin Cova. So there is this lap and then the regulation lap to go. Race leaders have already cleared the Tarzan hairpin. This is the battle lower down for 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th and 9th and 10th places now, with Julien Bazire on the back of this side-by-side scrap between Guillaume Mayo and Jacopo Jimenez, and Mayo goes back through on the inside line as Adrian Schimpf is up alongside Jerzy Spinkovics and back ahead of him too as they come out of the corner. So Julien Bazire takes up the fight against Jimenez. That takes the pressure off Mayo for a minute. Right, the clock has hit 0, so it will be the regulation lap at the end of this then. The reason for putting a regulation lap on is that the drivers always know when it is the last lap, which is particularly important in a one-make race where a toe is important. So they can plan, they know exactly when it's the last lap rather than being suddenly aware of a flag as it comes out, scrambles a few seconds before the time hits 0. Here they get the board that will say one more lap, but Gabriele Torelli looking mighty up front, 3.3 seconds to the good he is. Another lock-up as Adrian Schimpf scrabbles into turn 10. Other battles continuing lower down, including number 21, Stefan Polderman. He leads the racers section from René Steenmetz and Leonor Viguier in this race. And you can see just further up the road is Damiano Puccetti. And Puccetti in turn goes very, very wide all over the gravel and just skims the tar stack as he gets back towards the circuit. He's lost a couple of places, but that could have been a whole lot worse for him. So Puccetti having a huge wild ride, but at least he's still in the race. He saved that pretty remarkably. We're on the last lap then of race 1 of the weekend in Clio Cup Series here at Zandvoort. Matthias Dahn has gone by, picked up a place as you saw, and Gabriele Torelli is leading now by 3.6 seconds. That margin is getting bigger over Anthony Gerardo in second place. Torelli looking absolutely mighty. He has done a really good job in this opening race. He's done a really good job in the Mid-European Championship as well. This will be race win number 6 of the season. David Pouget, even though he's in the pit, I think he's going to hang on to the lead of Clio Cup Series with Nicolas Milan finishing in 3rd place. So even if it were a tie with race wins, that should still push it towards David Pouget. Some consolation. And René Steenmetz looks as though he is on target to win the Mid-Europe Racers Cup. So he's 2nd on the road, but should win on points heading into tomorrow's race. So for some, there's going to be things to celebrate come the end of the race. Gabriele Torelli and Anthony Gerardo are going to take their battle, though, for the Mid-Europe title into tomorrow's race. The checkered flag is being made ready, and Gabriele Torelli there comes into turn 13, heading towards a race win. For him, it'll be Clio Cup Series win number 6 of the year. Checkered flag is at the ready, and Gabriele Torelli has made good his escape, making himself very much one of the stars of the season in Clio Cup Series. Gabriele Torelli is going to win at Zandvoort. The checkered flag is waved. Gabriele Torelli wins race 1 in Clio Cup Series from Anthony Gerardo and Nicolas Milan. Alejandro Schimp 4th. And then it's going to be Adrian Schimp 5th ahead of Jerzy Spinkovic. In 7th place, Guillaume Mayo from Jacopo Cimenez. Thomas Piccard dropping to 9th place ahead of Julien Bazire on that last lap. And provisionally, David Pouget is Clio Cup Series champion. Even with Nicolas Milan finishing 3rd, that should have given David Pouget an uncatchable lead. And even if they were to tie on points with a greater number of race wins, Pouget would still have the nod provisionally. All that to be confirmed, but no doubt about the race winner, who's made it look remarkably easy. Gabriele Torelli then, the victor. And he makes his way then to the pit in. Anthony Gerardo there saying well done as he pulls up alongside his rival for the championship, Anthony Gerardo, who has become the real deal in Clio racing. For a couple of seasons, he was very, very quick, but really wild. And then last year, something was unlocked, and he was able to be a much calmer, much smoother, and much more successful driver. And he took the European title and is once more proving to be a real contender. Anthony Gerardo finishing 2nd, and Nicolas Milan, who's not done as much race winning this year, perversely, but he's always there or thereabouts and still running very, very competitive cars for all of his customers. He comes through for 3rd place. So there's one more race for the cars to go tomorrow, and the marshals sprint onto the track in order to wave the drivers straight on and to get them, I think, towards the paddock swiftly, because the Formula Renault, the GB3 Championship cars will be taking to the circuit shortly. So race organisers want the Clios off, so the track is clear for single-seaters, and then anybody that's required for a podium can be waved in that direction. Let's look at the results of Clio Cup Series Race 1. A win for Gabriele Torelli from Anthony Gerardo and Nicolas Milan. Alejandro Schimp 4th from Adrian Schimp, and then 6th, Jerzy Spinkovic. Guillaume Mayo 7th from Jacopo Cimenez. In 8th place, it was the Italian ahead of Thomas Piccard and Julien Bazire in 10th. Stefan Polderman, the driver, coming home on top within the Racers Championship, but René Steenmetz heading for title honours there. David Pouget after being one of the key drivers early on, battling for the race lead, ending up as a retirement. We also, of course, lost Erik Knudsen and Andreas Stucki after their contact at the first corner. So that 15-minute or so break in the race, meaning that a little bit later than expected, drivers arrive finally at the foot of the podium. And it's a very, very happy Gabriele Torelli who continues to bank the points, stretches that margin by a further 8 over Anthony Gerardo within Clio Cup Mid-Europe. And celebrates with the Rangoni Corsa team. Anthony Gerardo and Nicolas Milan discussing their races. As is perhaps inevitable after a Renault race, the cars were inspected for damage, but it was close, but not too close between the drivers, which was good to see. Now let's see if we can hear from Gabriele Torelli. Gemma Scott is down in Parc Fermé with Gabriele Torelli.
Gabriele, congratulations, 6 wins this year, that takes totals.
Yeah, so today is a very good day. So start from the pole position. So I'm fighting for the championship, and so today is a very, very good day. So.
You made it look easy with quite a lead out there.
Yeah, not easy. So after the first safety car is not easy to stay, so to use the head at the end, but so I'm very, very happy.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you very much.
So Gabriele Torelli gets closer to the Mid-Europe title. And his winning margin in the end, 4 seconds. In fact, he stretched that over the 2 French drivers, Anthony Gerardo and Nicolas Milan, who were behind him. Gabriele Torelli then, for Luca Rangoni's team, taking yet another victory. Super slow-mo, the hero of the day, Gabriele Torelli, then taking another victory and extending that margin in the championship. Let's look at the highlights of race 1 that began with Gabriele Torelli launching himself from pole position into the lead of the race. Guillaume Maillot tried to make that move on the inside line and just got his nose in front as they hit the first corner. David Pouget ran third, but over the remainder of the first lap, Maillot's car just seemed to, slightly strangely, lose performance, and he started to fall back in the pack. Milan jumped ahead of him, but that was under a yellow flag, and for that, he was told to give back his place. And that happened under a red flag. The car's being brought into the pit lane after an incident between Erik Knudsen and Andreas Stucki. When the race got back underway, the order was Torelli ahead of Pouget, ahead of Maillot, Milan 4th and Anthony Gerardo 5th. But Gerardo was soon into his usual feisty best and was working his way up the order. Battles behind included Alejandro Schip, who was charging through the pack, battling with Jetse Spinkovics. Race lead, there was this contact between Pouget and Torelli, and that did for Pouget. Initially it just looked like bodywork was starting to foul, but gradually the car lost pace and it fell further and further back in the pack, eventually Pouget retiring to the pit lane. Gerardo and Milan squabbled for second place as Torelli escaped up the road. Another great battle raged on down the pack. Torelli, though, was heading for win number 6 of the season, and with it, an increased advantage in the championship. Gabriele Torelli, Anthony Gerardo and Nicolas Milan, the top 3 in race 1 at Zandvoort.